Hey everyone, it is Thursday, April 9th, and here's Faisal again coming at you, well not live, but coming at you on YouTube with your Macbeth lesson of the day, I guess we can call it. So, first off, before we get straight into Macbeth, you guys should know that tomorrow is Good Friday, and Monday is Easter Monday. So, that's a holiday, and I know with everything going on that, well, everything's a holiday nowadays. That's just the situation we're in. But nevertheless, officially, it's a holiday. I shouldn't be teaching on that particular day. So, Friday, there's not going to be one of these videos. Instead, I'm going to post the next one on Tuesday of next week. But don't worry, we're still going to stay on schedule, and I am still going to give out the 6 big questions for, I shouldn't call it for the test, for the reflection, get rid of the word test, on Monday, even though it's Easter Monday, so I'll be sending those out by email so you can get started and get started on thinking about what you want to do. Alright, so no video tomorrow, because again, it's Good Friday, but we're still going by the schedule I outlined last Friday in my video there. So, let's get started then here. Let's get back to Macbeth, or rather today, Lady Macbeth, who we're really going to be focusing on here. So, hang on a second. So, Lady Macbeth in the play, in the final act of the play, undergoes something of a transformation. When we last saw her, she was still her normal evil self, right? She was trying to get Macbeth to calm down while he was freaking out at dinner, saying, "Oh, there's a ghost, oh no," right? And she was still calm, she was still collected, she seemed to still know what she was doing. But that all changes in the final act of the play, right? We see this first in Act 5, Scene 1, line 25, when you have a doctor and a gentlewoman watching her together in the middle of the room. And what the doctor and the gentlewoman talk about is the fact that Lady Macbeth is sleepwalking, right? She's walking around in her household, and she is washing her hands, right? So she's walking around, sleepwalking, right? And then while she's asleep, she goes like this. She rubs her hands and washes them, right? We see this again on that line 25, where we have this gentlewoman and talking to this doctor and says, "Neither to you nor any one, having no witness to confirm my speech. Lo you, here she comes, this is her very guise, and upon my life, fast asleep. Observe her, stand close. How came she by that light? Why, it stood by there, she has light by her continually. 'Tis her command. You see, her eyes are open. But their senses shut. What is it she does now? Look how she rubs her hands. It is an accustomed action with her, to seem thus washing her hands. I have known her continue in this for a quarter of an hour." So, washing your hands like that. Obviously, you guys should all be washing your hands, because there's a pandemic going on, and that's why we're all at home, right? So, whenever you go out, whenever you touch anything outside of your house, wash those hands. But Lady Macbeth is not doing it because of a pandemic, right? She is washing her hands for an entirely different reason. Now, before we go into that, let's talk about what washing hands means for Shakespeare's audience. So, those of you familiar with the Bible will maybe know this already, but there's a verse, Matthew 27:24, about a man called Pontius Pilate. There's the spelling of his name. So Pontius Pilate washes his hands when Jesus is about to be executed. The verse goes, according to the New International Version, When Pilate saw that he was getting nowhere, but that instead an uproar was starting, he took water and washed his hands in front of the crowd. "I am innocent of this man's blood," he said. "It is your responsibility." So that is what Pilate said on the eve of Jesus' execution, which I guess is kind of topical since it is Good Friday tomorrow. Right? So there you go. Nevertheless, Jesus is about to be executed, and this guy washes his hands of it, right? Washes his hand of the crime. So, the reason I bring this up, oh, by the way, here's a picture of it, right? You probably can see these in Bibles, right? There's Pontius Pilate, washes his hands, right? They didn't have sinks back then. And there's Jesus, or at least the traditional Western depiction of Jesus, about to be executed. He's got a crown of thorns over there, right? And Pontius Pilate washes his hands. So, the reason I bring this up is that Shakespeare's audience knows that story very well, right? They hear it in church, so we know that what this means when we see Lady Macbeth doing the same exact thing. It means that, number one, she's done something very terrible, and number two, she's starting to feel the guilt. The whole thing with Pontius Pilate doing this with his water is that, well, he's still committing a sin. He's still condemning an innocent man to death, right? So Pontius Pilate can't just wash away his sins with water. And the same thing applies for Lady Macbeth. In fact, let's see just that. So, she says on page 213, Act 5, Scene 1, line 25. "Out, damned spot! Out, I say! 1, 2, why then 'tis time to do it. Hell is murky. Fie, my lord, fie! A soldier and afeard. What need we fear who knows it, when none can call our power to account? Yet, who would have thought the old man to have had so much blood in him?" Do you mark that? "The Thane of Fife had a wife. Where is she now? What will these hands never be clean? No more of that, my lord, no more of that. You mar all with this starting. Go to, you have known what you should not. She has spoken what she should not, I am sure of that. Heaven knows what she has known. Here's the smell of blood still. All the perfumes of Arabia will not sweeten this little hand. Ho, ho, ho. What a sigh is there. The heart is sorely charged. I would not have such a heart in the bosom for the dignity of the whole body. Well, well, well. Pray God it be, sir. So, here is a different kind of Lady Macbeth. Right? So first of all, that line she said, the old man had so much blood in him. Right? She is, of course, talking about Duncan. So, all of a sudden, Lady Macbeth is feeling guilty. Right? She's feeling as though, well, not just as though, she's feeling that she's committed a terrible crime. Now remember, she's sleepwalking here. She's dreaming, right? And when you're dreaming, you know, it's not your rational mind speaking. So it's very interesting because essentially what we see here is that Lady Macbeth might look tough on the outside and everything like that, right? She might have been talking a big game, but she was really scarred by the murder of Duncan, right? And guilt is starting to eat her up, right? Even though she's still saying things like, oh, you know, no one can call us to account and everything like that. Guilt is clearly starting to take effect here, right? And we see that very clearly when she said the Thane of Fife had a wife. Where is she now, right? Well, maybe she's a little upset about the death of Macduff's wife, right? Maybe she didn't think Macbeth doing that was a good thing, right? The Thane of Fife, by the way, remember, Thane of Fife equals Macduff, right? So she's thinking about that. And again, we can see her sort of despair here when she talks about the smell of blood and how all the perfumes of Arabia will not sweeten her hand. So all of a sudden, you've got a very guilty Lady Macbeth, right? And so the question we might now have is, well, what happened to her? How come we see this change, right? So remember, in Act 3, when we last saw her, she was doing just fine. She was confident, she was tough, everything like that. But now, guilt is really starting to eat her up. So what happened? What do you guys think? Send me an email at faisal.ahmed@tdsb.on.ca, right? Toss me the email right there, and I will, as always, answer your questions as best as I can. Alright? So, we're not going to leave Lady Macbeth alone for now, though. We're going to touch on her again before we go for our long weekend. The spot scene is actually the last time you're going to see Lady Macbeth in this play. She will not appear again. We do hear about what happened to her, though. And let's take a look at that on page 233, Act 5, Scene 5, line 18, where you have Macbeth talking to his armor-bearer, Satan. We'll talk about Satan next time, where Satan says, "The Queen, my lord, is dead." And Macbeth answers, "She should have died hereafter." Now, I'll talk about that soliloquy in a moment, not soliloquy, speech in a moment, but first, in terms of how she died, as you can see, it's not spelled out text, but the implication is pretty clear that Lady Macbeth committed suicide, right? How she did it, we don't know, but she was found dead in the castle. It's not like the army of England killed her, right? Lady Macbeth killed herself, right? So the reason for that, of course, has a lot to do with what we were just talking about, right? The whole washing of hands thing. So her guilt got so great that she ended up killing herself, which is, you know, kind of a surprising ending for her, because she's so strong, she's so powerful, she's so in control in the first acts of the play, and, well, now all of a sudden she is not only having these sleepwalking episodes, but she's going ahead and killing herself too. So, again, I really look forward to hearing what your answers to this question is here, right? Why is she so different now? What happened to this lady? So, without Lady Macbeth, Macbeth is pretty much broken. And we can go back to that soliloquy now, where he says, "She should have died hereafter. There would have been time for such a word. Tomorrow, and tomorrow, and tomorrow creeps in this petty place from day to day to the last syllable of recorded time, and all our yesterdays have lighted fools the way to dusty deaths. Out, out, brief candle. Life's but a walking shadow, a poor player that struts and frets his hour upon the stage, and then is heard no more. It is a tale told by an idiot, full of sound and fury, signifying nothing." So, this speech that Macbeth gives at this point tells us a lot about his mindset at the end of the play. So, without Lady Macbeth, Macbeth is a broken man. Lady Macbeth is what he set all of his hopes on. The whole idea of killing Banquo, and Fleance too, by the way, was to get his own kids onto the throne. Those kids were supposed to come from Lady Macbeth, who is now dead. So there's no chance anymore of him putting, Macbeth Jr. or whoever onto the throne, right? His own kids will not inherit now because his own kids do not exist, and now the kids that he wanted to have with his wife are, never going to come to be because the wife is gone, right? So that ambition is very much dead. So, not only that, we should also bear in mind that regardless of anything else they do, no matter how evil they are, no matter how many people they've murdered, these two were a couple, and you can definitely say that Macbeth and Lady Macbeth loved each other very, very much, right? They were, for a time, a team, and as we were discussing on, was it Monday or Tuesday, the fact that they stopped being a team was done because Macbeth wanted to, among other things, protect her, right? So losing her leaves Macbeth very much with nothing. He's got nothing left at this point. He has no kids, he has no wife, he has no family. All he has is this crown he stole, right? And, you know, his pride, right? So I feel that at this point in the play, Macbeth knows that he's doomed, right? So if we were to go back to that speech, we would see that the things he's saying there, right, where he's saying, where is it? It is a tale told by... Yeah. This last line, it is a tale told by an idiot full of sound and fury, signifying nothing. It there, when he uses that pronoun, is signifying life, right? Life's but a walking shadow, a poor player that struts and frets his hour upon the stage and then is heard no more, right? So the whole idea of the tale being told by an idiot is very important here. Let's make this very clear, right? So what he's saying is essentially that life has no meaning, right? It's just a stupid story, right? It's just a story that happened and you hear the story and it goes away and is forgotten, right? So everyone dies and nothing matters, right? And what you find in that is despair, right? That's the governing emotion that Macbeth is going to be afflicted with for the rest of this play, right? He's going to keep on fighting, and he's going to keep on trying to defeat Macduff and trying to stop the English, all of that stuff. But he's not fighting for victory, really. He's fighting because he is out of options, right? A good analogy of it would be perhaps the idea of suicide by cop, which is a term for when a person does something to provoke a police officer because he wants to be shot and killed, right? So essentially it's when, you know, if someone who's suicidal wants to kill themselves but can't think of another way, they would, you know, try to attack a police officer or something like that so that they can be killed that way, right? So that's sort of what Macbeth is getting up to here, right? He's got the English army at the gates here. The English army is coming in to overthrow him. He knows that time is running out for him, even though he has these witch prophecies to rely on. So he knows that, you know, it might be a good idea to surrender at this point, right? You don't really have much of a chance yet. But Macbeth is not willing to back down, right? Because essentially you can say, or at least I can say, that Macbeth is essentially being suicidal here in this last bit of the play, and that he's, you know, fighting essentially so that he can die. Now, you may disagree with me, of course, right? In fact, maybe that can be one of the questions. Is Macbeth attempting to commit suicide by continuing to fight with the English, right? Is that what his goal is there? Just to see himself, get himself killed, right? So that can perhaps be the question there. I've sort of laid my cards on the table here. I've told you basically that I think, yeah, he is. But if you guys have a different perspective, go ahead and toss me an email, and let's talk about this. So, nevertheless, Macbeth here is almost to the end of his rope, right? He's now lost his wife, right? And all he has left are those 3 prophecies that we talked about last time. Let's just remind ourselves of what they are, right? It's beware Macduff, right? We gotta beware of Macduff. We've got to also don't fear anyone that was born from a woman, right? We had that one too, which is, you know, a good one. And also don't fear until Burnham, hope I spelled this right, Burnham Wood comes to Dunsane Hill. I think I spelled both of them wrong. Let me see. Get this. Yeah, Burnham Wood comes to Dunsane Hill. So, those are the 3 prophecies, and those are his last protections. Alright, so on Tuesday, we're going to talk about how those 3 protections are maybe not going to work out for him, and we're also going to talk about the end of this play. But for now, what I would like to know is, do you guys have any final questions about Lady Macbeth and the way her fate unfolds? Please send me those emails like you've been doing already, and we will discuss that further. By the by, in terms of final essay topics, a good essay topic would be something like, is Lady Macbeth a monster, right? Now, if you ask that question at the beginning of the play, when she's, getting ready to stab Duncan and putting away the knives and everything like that, it might be an easy question, right? Because you'll say, yeah, of course she's evil. Look at her. She's trying to kill this guy. But now that we've seen her commit suicide, maybe we have to change the way we look at it. So, with that in mind, I hope you guys have a good long weekend. I hope you're all safe out there. And I will talk to you all tonight. Take care.